the NFL player survey came out, which we'll get into detail later in this episode. But I was wondering, what if every year we had a husband and wives or spouse and spouse player survey report card? How do you think that would go?
Man, good. That's a good question. I feel like I would get some low scores in the weight room right now in our marriage. Haven't been working out enough.
Okay. But what if she likes you bigger?
My wife actually does.
Oh,
so then maybe I'd get some good scores then.
Listen, my wife too. She doesn't like when I go, hey, I'm just thinking about just transforming my body and like just losing like 80 pounds and looking crazy. She's like, don't do that. What is it with our women wanting us bigger? Is it like a protection thing? Or is it like the bigger we are, the less desirable we are to other people?
Good question. I'm gonna say it's not a protection thing.
Maybe more love to handle.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
All I know is I would give my wife A's in every single category except for a B+ in. I don't like where this is going. Roll the intro.
Stop yourself right there, Bryan. I'd give my wife A+ in everything.
I would like to, because she would know if I gave her all A's that I'm being facetious or that I'm not being honest. So I'm trying to like give her something to make her go like, yeah, okay, improvements. But that doesn't land well, does it?
Find out which team scores correlate the most to our spouses coming up in this week's episode. Roll it. What up, you fan Levitardians? We're back. Nasty Nate, Cousin B. Did you miss us? Having all sorts of stuff going on here, but we press on and we're here. You're like, the NFL season's over, but we're gonna give you even more NFL. But before we get to that, you're gonna get a little Black History Month stuff, and you're saying, but it's March 1st. But for us right now, it's still Black History Month. So, and we haven't touched on it.
Every month is Black History Month. Isn't it kind of crazy that it's Black History Month? Yeah, you didn't let me intro the episode.
I was trying to segue into it. I usually do the whole. We're the fastest growing. Welcome to the Fan Levitar Show podcast. The fastest growing YouTube. The fastest growing. Man, I'm rusty at it. Let's try it. Welcome to the Fan Levitar Show. Welcome. Oh, see it. Here we go. Third time's the charm. Welcome to the Fan Levitar Show. Welcome to the Fan Levitar Show podcast, the fastest growing Dan Levitar Show fan YouTube channel. Have you subscribed? Have you rated and reviewed us 5 stars? Bryan, do you have anything that you want to talk about today?
You know what? We had a tumultuous February in all facets. On the show, off the show, Viva la Mas. Everything happened, and we didn't give Black History Month its due diligence. So we're going to start off March 1st, International Women's History Month.
We love our women, you guys. That's why we love our women. That's why we're grading our spouses, all right?
Honestly, none of us would be here without women. And the versions we would be terrible without our women now. So we're going to kick off the first day of Women's History Month with a beautiful nugget of knowledge my man Nate over here learned about how the finances involving blacks in America have always been somewhat of a interesting topic. Take it away, Nate.
That's right, Bryan. I said, what am I going to do this February to learn some Black History Month? And 4 years ago things were pretty crazy and everyone was arguing, and what did I do? I went out and I bought a bunch of books. I'm gonna read and learn a bunch of stuff so I can just argue with all these fools. And now I have I read some of them and I'm still got like maybe 8 books to get through, but I had one that I read the first chapter and then really liked it, stopped, and I picked it back up. It's The Color of Money, Black Banks, and the Racial Wealth Gap. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start reading this again during this month, but I also have a newborn, so I did finish the second chapter and started the third chapter, but the first chapter of this I found really interesting, and what it talks about is right after emancipation, one of the things that America did was they created the Freedman's Bank, which was a bank that was supposed to be specifically for African Americans. But as with things that have good intentions or not, the bank was limited because people are still very racist back then. It was only a bank for savings, and it was, pitched as this is a way to teach Black people how to save money and help them grow their money in a safe way. The bank was regulated by Congress and was not supposed to have any sort of risky financials. And so the bank only allowed African Americans to save their money, not do anything else like invest it. And again, it was supposed to be a bank that did not do any risky investing itself. But of course, people who were put in charge of this was a bunch of white dudes. And in the first couple years, what happened? They $75 million and 75,000 depositors, roughly 1.5 billion in today's money, was put into the bank by African Americans. So it really caught on, and a lot of money was put into it, a lot of wealth. But in the 1870s, Jay Cook, the guy who was put in charge of it, started petitioning Congress to deregulate the bank. And without any Black voices there to push back against it, they gave Jay Cook whatever he requested. The bank was deregulated, and he was able to invest that money how he saw fit. And basically what he essentially did is he pilfered the wealth of that bank, because he then made risky investments. And what did he invest in? He invested in his brother's railroad company, and railroads went belly up in the 1870s and crashed, and that led to the bank ultimately failing. And out of all of that, the bank failed, closed, and let's see if I got my numbers right. Only half of the people who deposited money in the bank received 3/5 of their money back. So just like that, a bank that was pitched to be something that was supposed to be safe, teach Black people how to be responsible with money, ended up being taken advantage of. And obviously there was no restitution for that. Just over half of Black wealth that was put into this bank was erased overnight because of it being run irresponsibly. And again, it's just, for me, those things are important for myself. Like, sure, there were a lot of banks that failed as well too, but this book just, it continues to outline kind of like the struggles of African Americans to create and generate wealth after that. And so I just think that's an important part of history. Like, for me as a white man, I feel like that's important for me to know and understand and recognize like my privilege in that. Like, the thing that I always go back to is my grandfather served in World War II, was a veteran, and the GI Bill, which I know he benefited from, helped him get his first home and purchase homes cheaply. And that was something that Black veterans did not receive. You can look into that as well. And I bring that up because I'm a homeowner now, and how I bought my first home is my grandma every year would give me $1,000 for my birthday. So by the time I was like, I don't know, 25, 27, I had $30,000 something in an account that I did nothing to do to raise on my own, but that was what I used to purchase my first house, which then we were able to sell and take advantage of raising house prices and raising demand during COVID, and sold that for quite a bit higher than we bought it in just a few short years, and now buy another house that's more that that is 3 times the value of our first house. So just recognizing like my privilege. And so I've tried to be like a person with however I vote or with whatever I do. I used to have a job where I had to fundraise my salary. And so when I did that, I actually would fundraise above and beyond my salary because I knew I could, and give that to other staff members of color that were on my staff team or in the staff team area that I was a part of, trying to like recognize like, this is my privilege. Like, it doesn't mean I'm like a lazy person and got things easily, but it does mean, well, it does mean I've had things easzy.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
everyone should
I don't
have
get offended
things
by
easy.
That.
Yeah, it's first of all, thank you for that beautiful excerpt. In this ongoing world, especially in America, where we're finding this heavy pushback on being able to learn about the past in hopes to deter us from repeating it, and how there's certain states and certain governments that don't want any of that to be viable to people who don't know about it. It's dope that you took your time to kind of find out about that, because a lot of people, like I said, don't put the effort in. A lot of people who are directly affected by it don't even know about some of this stuff. And it's tough because you try to have a sensible talk with some people about things like this. And, you mentioned the simple process of buying a house. Your grandfather being able to purchase a house affordably has an ongoing snowball effect of positivity throughout your entire family line. And if you're ever going to be in a spot to try to fix things for the future, to plant those seeds for the shade that you won't be able to enjoy, it's tough if every time you plant a seed, it gets uprooted by something that you didn't have any control of when you were doing it, quote unquote, the right way. You mentioned your blessing and your grandma looking out for you. She had the ability to put that $1,000 away, right? As we know, Americans don't even have that money saved up, period. More than half of Americans don't have $1,000 in their savings account. So, in our response, my wife being Black and Puerto Rican, myself being Black, Indigenous, some white, we didn't have any of that. We had to cash in stocks. So we had to cash in our retirement in order to afford a down payment. And you go, well, but you still got it done. And it's like, yeah, but it would have been better if I didn't have to. Yeah. Because I had to leverage my future and hope for my present, and hope that my present could better my future in terms of my daughter and my future and other children I have down the line. And it's just dope that you can see it and you don't get offended by it. Like the conversations we're having, I could see someone both being poor, being lower middle class, below the poverty line. I grew up below the poverty line, so I 100% get it. And they don't want to hear about things like privilege. And I understand why they wouldn't. I 100% get it. I was there. I grew up on food stamps. I used to have to go to the church to get boxes of food. I ate the government cheese. I did all that. So I 100% get it. But the idea that it would be easier if there weren't certain things that happened that had no control with you, and these things were taken from you, whether it's the form of government programs that were stripped away, people not looking out for certain individuals because they didn't represent them. Or like you stated, if you got a bank set up for Black folk, but you got no Black folk there to look out for Black folk, what the hell's going to happen, right? Like in this country where we see white folk not look out for white folk, and white folk are the majority, what do you think is going to happen to the minorities? And it's a shitty situation, because if we understand that we got way more in common than we don't, we could get to where we need to get to progress as a nation and progress as a people. And instead, we kind of let things that kind of don't have anything to do with the now interfere with the now. And it sucks, because like I said, I think every person out there generally doesn't want to cause harm to others. But who knows? When you're in a shitty situation, it's easy to take advantage of that. So salute to you. Salute to everybody out there doing their best to be better people. If you listened to the Batard show yesterday, they had Tyrone on. He won that amazing 3-spin on Price is Right, where he had hit 90, 10, and then 100 on the bonus. Crazy. Or $1 on the bonus. I never felt so much infectious joy hearing him on the show and how grateful he was talking about it. To the point where it just made me go like, yo, we are so alike more than we aren't. And if we stop looking at the things that we kind of can't agree on and start looking at the things that we can agree on, we'd realize that we working against ourselves here. So salute to Tyrone, salute to Black History Month, salute to all good people history. And shout out, it's March 1st. Shout out to Sarah Breedlove, aka CJ Madam Walker, first female millionaire, right? Like, we gonna celebrate our women this month because we should be celebrating our women all the time. Because listen, hey, Mother Earth, baby, listen, women make the world go round. If you leave it up to us, we'll blow this bitch up.
Yeah, I mean, men. Yeah. What track record do we have of great? Things,
decision making.
Yeah, just I mean, that's just gotta learn from the past.
Learning from the past. One of the best ways to learn from your past, especially as a youth, is getting those report cards at home. Right? I don't know about
what
you,
were your
but
report cards like, Brian? Were you a Mike Ryan, Chris Cody, or Jeremy Taché?
I was someone who acted like Chris Cody, performed like Mike Ryan, but had the potential of a Jeremy Taché. Yeah, I had some rough bouts with education in my youth, and it wasn't from being stupid. Most of my grade school progression was actually forced upon me because of how well I would test. I would dick around, don't do homework, won't pay attention to class, goof off, and then I would ace the test. And they'd be like, well, we can't kind of do anything with this, so pass them. Then I got to high school and realized, oh, snap, I was smart in the inner city. I wasn't suburb smart. And then I realized, oh, shit, like this isn't the same. And then I just resorted to being a class clown until I realized it was too late. And then I couldn't go to college. So, yeah, that was my scenario. I don't think your grades define your intelligence, but they do define your ability to play the game. And as we all grow in the workplace, we learn like, yo, I don't care if it's school, work, relationships, hobbies, there's a certain game you got to play. And sometimes it's not going to be the thing that suits you, but you got to know how to play it. How about you? How were you as a student? You look like you were a Taché-er.
I was a Taché-er there, Brian, of A's, honor, school stuff, all that jazz.
You were all in the yearbook. I say 5.5. 5.5 pictures is the going line number for how many times you were in a picture in your yearbook. I'm gonna say over.
Oh man, I don't even know. I'd have to like find my yearbook and like flip through it, maybe because like the sports stuff, but not. I went to a really small school, so
you weren't like in the Glee Club and the.
No, we didn't really have a lot of clubs. It was just sports. We didn't really have too many clubs, so there wasn't a lot of like club photos. I might have been like the class clown like picture, and then with like some sporting photos, I might have hit that 5.5 possibly. Also, just because of like when there's only like 56 people in your senior class.
What?
How
many people were your entire high school?
250. I went to a private Christian school, so. Again, a little bit more of that privilege, but Jeremy Taché, I was pulling down those Minnesota Vikings report cards there, Brian, although I would get the occasional B, C+ in Spanish my last year.
Typical American. I graduated in we had 2,600 people in our school. It was a high school, 4 grades, 2,600 people. So
wow.
Yeah, a lot of folks. Easy to get lost. And sometimes, my daughter goes to a parochial school, and I'm envious of her community that she has. There's a sense of being able to go to school with the same kids from elementary on to high school is a dope feeling, and I can see it resonate in her comfort that she has at school. She's always willing to try new things because she always knows a familiar face, whether it's a teacher running it, a coach running it, or having fellow classmates there. So the NFL is a school. It's a university. And sometimes the students, the players, get to grade the university, the league and its teams, and their coaches, the teachers, and the owners, the deans, I guess.
Sure.
Follow me here. 2024 NFL player team report cards have been released, and they're somewhat interesting if you care to try to correlate between things like facilities, nutrition, weight rooms, owners, coaching, and their success. What was the biggest takeaway that you experienced looking at these grades, Nathan?
My biggest takeaway, Brian, is the Kansas City Chiefs will not repeat for the third time as champions. Like, this is, I said it this season and I was wrong. This is like this is something's got to give, like trying to put his little back in. This upcoming season, we now know the ownership, like not putting stuff in for the players, and this is the year that it's gonna finally come back to haunt.
Why do you say that?
Because it's just someone's got to give. You know, you hear this drama also about Taylor Swift, like, and the rules she's giving Travis Kelce. Oh man, a little.
Tell me more. I don't know about any of these rules. What's up with that?
Yeah, so he's got rules like he can't take pictures with women fans because of how that might look. He shouldn't frequent adult venues. On his podcast he had, I think, like a Vegas like strip club or Kansas City strip club like shirt. So some rules have been passed down for their relationship.
Now are these rules coming from Taylor or from
Taylor?
Are these the rules of dating Taylor?
These rules are coming from Taylor is what I'm told. But anyway, there's stuff brewing. I don't think the Chiefs are gonna repeat, Brian. What's your takeaway? And as you say that, I'm going to go pick up my third child and we'll see how the rest of this podcast goes.
Yeah, go take care of that. So I'm interested in his take because, okay, for those that don't know, the Chiefs ranked on a letter grade, just like our old report cards. They ranked multiple categories when it came to the facilities, right? This year, it was 11 categories. Last year, it was 8. Now, I highlighted that because I want you guys to see the differences. Now, remember, last year, Chiefs won a Super Bowl. This year, the one that just passed, they also won the Super Bowl, right? So keep that in mind. So this year, they had owner on here. The previous year, they did not have owner at all. This year, the Chiefs rated their owner an F-. Okay? That's bottom of the barrel. We get it, right? But when you really think about it, why would they do that? I don't know the intangibles. You find out that the Chiefs were supposed to get locker room additions. They were supposed to get updated facility stuff, and it never came, okay? Let's look at the tangibles, though. Head coach. The Chiefs this year rated Andy Reid an A+, right? You would think that. I don't think most people would argue with that. Coach also was unfortunately not one of the things on the list last year either. So it's hard to kind of guess what they would have thought, but who cares? They won a Super Bowl last year, and everyone likes Andy Reid. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that was probably an A+ as well.
Whoa.
Now, let's look. Did the baby just fall?
No, the baby did not just fall, Brian.
Okay. All right.
We're all good. I have the baby here. Are
you walking?
I am walking. Can you hear the walking pad?
All right. So I was just
great points, Brian, by the way.
I was just discussing how this survey has changed over the years. Last year, there were categories that weren't on this year's survey, such as head coach and owner. Because I beg to argue, if you look at the carryover grades between the Chiefs from the Super Bowl they won 2 years ago and the Super Bowl they won last year, there's a lot of similar things. So using these intangibles don't show that they aren't going to repeat.
They do, Brian. Right? That's exactly what I said. They do show they're not going to repeat because something's got to give. You can't be a F owner. The owner's going to fail them. Just watch. You think a F owner is going to re-sign all those players they need on the defense? But they're going to let some people go Because he's like, we keep winning, and I'm not doing much of anything, and I haven't really added to the offense. The defense is good, but that defense has a lot of free agents, and that owner is going to screw it up. Because what do owners do? They always take more credit and think they're more part of it than they should be.
You don't think they were an F owner last year?
Eventually, that F owner is going to catch up with them.
Or it's consistent. You know what you're going to get from the owner. This year, what did the Chiefs rank their weight room this year?
You're gonna have to find that. Brian.
Okay, all right. This year, Chiefs.
Okay, there. I switched my mouse.
Make up your mind. You want me to find it, or you want me to?
I'm on. They waived their weight room. I got a weight room. Kansas City Chiefs C+.
They ranked
really bad score on lots of things, Brian.
They ranked their weight room a C+, right?
Yeah.
Last year, their weight room was ranked C+. 2 years ago. Nothing changed. It carried over. What did they rank treatment of facilities or family, excuse me?
Treatment of families D+, 18th out of 32 teams.
You know what they ranked for their treatment of families 2 years ago? B. So that one dropped. So if you want to argue, and
do you think that's because of why is that, Brian? Is Taylor Swift to blame for that? Well, I don't not to be one who wants to blame Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift and everything she brought to the NFL.
She can come and give me rules. She can come and tell me how to live my life, and I will listen to her because clearly she understands how to do it. Okay, so I'll put that in the category for yes, you're correct. That might be the thing. How about food service and nutrition? What do they rank?
Well, let's see. They C- for food/cafeteria and an F for nutritionist.
Okay, so in 2023, it was a combined total. They got a D+. So that's probably the average.
Bad. So what that 25th in food taste, 27th in food freshness. You're going to tell me that if you don't think your food is fresh, you think you're going to be able to repeat 3 times as a Super Bowl champion? That is going to catch up to you.
All 3 meals were provided, and that's better than most teams can say. Looking at you, the Bengals.
25th and 27th. What?
How about strength coaches?
Strength coaches, C+.
In 2022, A-. So that's another drop off. So that's 2. How about weight room?
C+.
C+ from 2022. So that's the same. How about training room?
F. Last place.
D+. So that's another drop off. How about training staff?
Oh, wait, sorry. Training room was a D. It was training staff. That was a F.
Okay, both are still better because training staff was a D- in 2022. How about locker room?
Locker room, F.
It was a D- in 2022. And how about team travel?
D.
It was a F in 2022. Listen, that got better. It got better. Okay, you make a tantalizing argument. I will say, if you're going to look at these grades and give them any weight, you're probably right in the area where you assume, guess what? It's done for them. What I will say is, looking at some of the teams.
What was head coach? Was Andy Reid was first place out of all head coaches, A+. What was he ranked last season?
They did not have coach and owner on last season.
Okay.
Which is probably a request. I bet you it broke down like this. I bet you were like, I can't rank my bosses. And they were like, no, we don't have that category. It's like, why not? So, and as you can see, it's important. What I will say is this. While you want to attach success with things such as the owner, things such as the training staff and weight room and how families are treated and blah, 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 I'm looking at the teams who do it really well. The Dolphins with an A+ owner, the Vikings with an A+ owner, the Broncos with an A, the Packers with an A, the Jags with an A, the Falcons with an A-. You can't convince me that stuff.
Sounds like you got to disrespect the family and get a little fire in your guys, right? Get them a little extra motivation.
Sounds like maybe it's these owners. Maybe where you want to be is in the C area, right? You want to be a little bit of a hard. Let's look at the C teams.
As an owner, right? Maybe you just got to be like, your wife's put on a couple pounds. It looks like you guys trying for a baby.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
No.
Don't do that. Don't do that. These ratings are all over the place. I mean, you got the Buffalo Bills who got an A- owner, and the 49ers who got an A- owner, and then the Falcons who got an A- owner. So, I mean, and those are three franchises going in three completely different ways. So I was trying to see if there was a tangible effect between things like training staff and injuries. And then I realized the best training staff, Miami Dolphins, they had injuries all year.
Wow,
the Eagles,
great point.
Injuries all year. The Falcons, you couldn't tell.
Eagles had the best food, though.
I think that's because they got the big boys.
Is that why
they
trailed off? Got a little complacent. Food was so good, and it took a while for that food coma to hit. A food coma probably doesn't hit until after week 10, week 11, and then that could explain some of why they were so lethargic, picking out on their good food. Maybe you need some bad food to get your guys a little hungry on the playing field, right? Empty stomachs, hungry hearts.
Exactly. If they're full in the locker room, how they gonna eat on the field?
Exactly.
Right. And from what I'm hearing,
no room for kneecaps.
Supposedly their security, head of security, from what I'm seeing, from what my sources are telling me, his kerfuffle that resulted in his suspension and then later removal of him being on the sideline was a direct result of how their season did a complete 180. Just saying. Just saying. You heard it here first. Head coaches, before we get off this, head coaches, Minnesota Vikings, A+. Detroit Lions, A+. Kansas City, A+. Dolphins, A. Eagles, A. Bengals, A. Bills, A. Rams, A. Niners, A. Seahawks, A. Steelers, A. Cowboys, A. So, out of all those names
Dallas
I just
Cowboys
mentioned,
have a B. Oh no, wait, sorry, that's owner. I mean, that's
see, look at you.
My B.
Propaganda. You're part of the problem. When we see the media and how they cover the relationship between head coaches and the team, out of every team I just mentioned, I'm assuming Pete Carroll was the A and not the new guy. Every single one of these teams gets treated with a love and admiration from the coach in respect to what they mean to the team, what they accomplish, and their smarts. Why is it that the only team on that list where the coach has an A, just like the rest of them, they seem to always be wondering if he's worth the job as head coach? And that's Mike McCarthy. Why is that?
Because he just doesn't get it done in the playoffs, Brian. Plain and simple.
And Shanahan does?
Gets it more done in the playoffs.
Listen, if you get me closer to the nut and I still don't climax, all it is a worse tease. I'm sorry.
And then, yeah, you don't get that clarity.
I'm sorry. Mike McCarthy won more playoff games than Mike McDaniel.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just saying. So that's the NFL survey, player team reports. Is there anything that wasn't, in specifically talking about categories, was there any category on this list that you didn't see that you would like to?
No, it made me sad, Brian, because I did see this thing on Instagram where I scrolled through like some of these results and I saw that my Titans had like an F for travel, and then the picture they put up next to it was Derrick Henry looking sad. And just me with the sad realization, like, Derrick Henry he's not going to be a Titan. Like, he's going someplace else. I saw somewhere like an article that perfect fit for him could be Baltimore Ravens. And I was like, oh man, could you imagine the backfield of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson? And I just got sad because I'm in a place right now as a fan where like all my teams suck and they're all blowing it up. The Toronto Raptors traded away everybody. I don't even know who I am as a fan anymore, Brian. Like, I'm going to be going into next year and like I'm going to put my sports persona around Will Levis, like, and mayonnaise coffee.
That's ugly.
I don't know.
That's ugly. I mean, you could be the Bengals. I'm hearing the Bengals have to share rooms.
Thought that was the
share
Buccaneers.
Hotel rooms.
If you're not a 4-year vet, you got to pay $1,750 if you don't want to share.
That's crazy. What are we doing? Is this a situation where we look at what's happening in the WNBA and we're like, wait, why don't those ladies have private flights? And we're like, wait, this is ridiculous. Are we serious? Like it's kind of like you're shocked because you feel like it should be a guarantee. This is another scenario where I'm like, wait, the NFL makes so much money. They can't just have across the board situations where this isn't the case. It's just nuts to me that there's poverty teams in the NFL and this isn't something I knew of to this point. I knew the Bengals are bums. I know the Bengals ain't spend money. What I didn't know is the Bengals have 5 working toilets in their locker room.
Wow.
That's crazy. And what do you do? Does Joe Burrow poop first? Does he have his own? Does him and Jamar Chase share a toilet? Like, how does that, what goes on there? Is there a poop toilet? Is there 2 poop toilets and 3 pee toilets?
You got to have more poop toilets than like pee toilets. Like, that's got to be the priority. I mean,
I'd argue
5 working toilets,
does
that can't count urinals. Like, they got to have more working urinals than that.
All 5 poop toilets, and you got to pee in the shower.
Yeah, there you go.
So speaking of peeing in the shower, sometimes when I used to get done from a day of football on a Sunday, I'd sit there in the shower, and I have a pretty nice shower. It's kind of like a double stall. It's it's a man's shower, and I'll let the water hit me on my chesticles, and I'll let it drip down my body, and I'll sit there and go, damn, this was a uneventful, especially if my team loses, right? I feel amazing if they win. Even better if they beat a rival. But more often than not, it's more like, oh, this game don't matter because we're probably going to lose in the playoffs. And I sit there and I go, but I wouldn't want to do anything else on my Sundays. Now that I'm having Sundays where I can do anything that I want, I find myself with like a football-sized hole in my heart, and I don't know what to fill it with. Basketball is doing it for me, but like my beloved Miami Heat, we don't really start caring until, I say, March 5th. So we're not there yet. Baseball is baseball. What do you do to keep yourself, I don't know, alive when it comes to off season with football?
Well, Brian, currently I've dived headfirst into some reality TV shows.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Well, you're not going to, the first one, I was scrolling on my different streamers and a little something popped up and I was like, you know what? I'm going to honor the Super Bowl champions and Travis Kelce and watch Catching Kelce. So I rewound the clock, watched all of Catching Kelce, and I got to say, you guys, I kind of question Travis Kelce's decision-making process, and I'm a little bit like, I guess the dude's grown up, but not funny. Guys mentioning Weird Al Yankovic. That dude was outdated even back with like Catching Kelce. Okay. Question some of his decision making. Catching Kelce was the reality show where 50 women date Travis
his
Kelce.
Dating show.
Yeah, his dating show is 7 episodes. And it really wasn't 50 women. Like, he shows up to a stadium and there are 50 women, and what happens is all of you get 1 minute with me, and then I have to cut it down to 20. So 30 women only got 1 minute, and there were some where like they couldn't even fill that minute. Like, this one girl just like looks at him and like crosses her eyes like twice, and that's like their whole time. So, but there was some people where like he kept around this one girl a couple episodes longer than I thought, and him and Jason were like, oh, it's because she's so funny, but everything they'd show of her, I'm like, it's not funny. She's just like so cringe. And even I was like, the girl he picked in the end, he's like, he did this whole like fake out thing of like, you're the girl who I usually go for, but I feel like I should try something new. And so the one girl thinks she's gonna win, and then he's like, but ultimately I have to go with my heart, and I'm gonna stick with what I normally do, even though it hasn't worked in the past. And
damn,
sure enough, go figure, that relationship didn't work in the past and whatnot. And yeah,
Damn. Okay.
And
so
that's taken me now into Love is Blind, which the show
I knew you were going to say. That's what I didn't want you to say.
Sorry, got sucked in. Not. Jimmy. What a douche.
I'm going to take your word for it. I will not watch these types of shows. These brain rot shows. Look, I will not. How about you know, I got a show for you. How about you watch Shogun?
You know what? That is on my list. I am going to get to that. I want a couple more episodes to come out so I can binge it like a little bit more. That's on. Don't worry, Brian. I'm going to get to that. I'm also watching The Great Hulu, that show. I enjoy.
What's that show about?
It's like a dramatic comedy of Catherine the Great.
Oh, yeah. My wife watched that. That was one of the shows where in the background, I'm not paying attention. But I'm like, what they doing over there? It was a phenomenal show. It was a really good show. Really good show. And to my knowledge, wasn't it a dub?
No, not a dub.
Are you sure?
Like they dubbed the.
It wasn't originally in English.
No, it was originally in English. It's Nicholas Hoult. I think.
Oh yeah, no, that's another show. There's another show that is it's like a quality show like that. In the same, like she likes all these period pieces. Me, I had enough of old white people. I don't want to hear about old white people and old white people times. Just come on. That's no offense, Nathan, but
yeah.
You know. It's like okay, it's that one. And it was one of those types of shows. I was like, actually, this show's kind of good. And then she was like, oh yeah, it's actually dubbed, and I couldn't tell. So shout out to the voice actors who did that show that ain't actually getting the props because I don't remember the name of the show. For me though,
what a great show.
It's I'm trying to get my David Sampson on. I'm going to get back into running.
Just hold a baby and walk during the podcast, Brian.
I would have to find a baby. And I don't know about you, but they ain't letting me just grab random babies. I'm gonna find. I realized. So how old are you now, Nathan? 35.
36.
36. Are you sure? Because you kind of thought about it.
Born in '87, November.
Okay, so wait, same year, 87 babies. Okay,
year.
So one of the things that I've learned, being in my mid 30s, is the amount of time and resources you need to spend to actively stay active, we weren't prepared for. Our ability to just make it work in our teens and our 20s set us up to not be aware of what's required once you hit your 30s. I'll explain. I used to be able to throw on some sneakers, Jordans, triple boost, whatever, just some sneakers I find comfortable, and then go for a run or a jog. The last time I tried to do that, I couldn't walk without pain for a week. And I came to the conclusion, there's a reason why all of these fancy sneakers, the Hokas, the On Runnings, the Brooks, there's a reason why these sneakers not only exist, but why you realize, oh, they're not the same as the rest of them. Because they target us, old people who have blown out knees, blown out ankles, blown out metatarsals, heel spurs, all those things, and you can't just get up, suit it and boot it and go running. So once I came to terms with this, it's an ego thing. It's an ego check, especially as a man, because you always envision yourself as your peak form of athleticism. And once I realized this, I came to terms with myself. I made an appointment. I'm going to go to Fleet Feet. Shout out to Fleet Feet. I'm going to get my feet measured, see if I have any sort of pronation, see if I have any sort of, weight distribution that needs to be addressed. I'm going to get me a nice pair of running sneakers. And for the first time in my life, at the age of 36, about to be 37 in a couple weeks, I'm going to become a runner.
Good for you, Brian. Proud of you. Best of luck. It's hard. You hit your 30s and your body does start falling apart, and it's not the same. I've been feeling that. My weight's been fluctuating a ton over
You had the hernia last year?
Yeah, I had the hernia, so I gained a bunch of weight because I wasn't working out. I started working out again, lost some weight, lost about like maybe 15-ish pounds. And then I put 10 back on because of the baby, and
baby weight.
Baby weight, exactly, right? You have a baby, dudes put on weight because stop working out again. And yesterday, Brian, guess what? I went for a run. So that's like,
how was it?
Ooh, it was rough. My goal is always like, I don't know what it is. Whenever I like reset to start like being healthy again, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do like a quick run. And my baseline goal is always like, can I do 2 miles in less than 20 minutes? So I did 2 miles in like 19 minutes. So
Nice. That's a pretty good baseline.
Yep, and was dying. Feel very sore.
Mm-hmm.
And now I guess today's workout is podcasting and walking on this walking pad holding my baby.
What are your running shoes of choice?
I have a pair of On Cloud running shoes.
You like them?
Yeah, I like them. I haven't had any issues or injuries. I use them more as like exercise shoes since I've had them.
Got you.
My preferred method of working out is
CrossFit HIIT.
like
You like a HIIT guy.
high intensity interval training for sure. That is like 30 minutes of doing that workout, weights, and gets your heart rate going. That's my preferred method, but
Yeah.
I might just switch to like trying to be more active. My hardest thing is I gotta eat better. Ugh.
Yeah, that's
Too
always
much.
tough.
Stay
That's
up
the worst
late,
for me.
binge,
Yeah.
and eat a bunch of stuff I shouldn't be eating. Too many
And
sweets.
that feeling of when you do work out, you feel like, hey, I can kind of, do a little thing. So,
Yep.
listen, I wish you the best on your transition back to being healthy. You wish me the best for mine. Thank
Absolutely.
you. I hope this time next year we're looking at each other and we're both sitting here. We're like, hey, this podcast is sponsored by insert running company. And we're like, yo, da 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 da. So we're here talking about the best health practices. We were previously talking about ways to fill that gap of no football. One of the things that are going on right now that I don't think most people care about, which is unfortunate to me, and it's very, very, I'm biased when saying it, is preseason baseball. 2 days ago on the show, 2 days earlier, actually, no, yesterday's show, first live hour, Dan mentioned that he felt a joy when he saw that preseason baseball was on TV, to the point where it almost was illuminated because of the sun, and it looked like it was holy. And he was like, I love preseason baseball. And Cody was like, I love preseason baseball. They claimed it to be the best preseason sport. I couldn't argue with them, but at the same time, I don't want to agree with them because, ew, it's still baseball. Do you agree that baseball is bar none the best preseason sport?
No,
Ooh.
I don't. I think there are no good preseason sports. How about that?
Tell me more.
Can you even name a good, like, I've never gotten excited for like spring training. When I did spring training, I don't care. Have you? I mean, maybe back in the day when I was a kid and didn't have anything to do, I would watch a preseason football game because I could, but I'm not watching a preseason like football game now. Not watching preseason basketball games. Like maybe, well, you know what? Maybe summer league. Does that count as preseason?
See, that's where I was
that
flirting
preseason
with.
or is that something? Because if I had to pick, I'd actually would go with the NBA summer league.
Because I haven't watched any NBA preseason games, but I've watched summer league games.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, NFL preseason games also are mid. And I think part of it is also because they do a weird 4th week break. I don't like that. Like, don't get me excited for football and then be like, haha, gotcha, bitch. And then be like, here. But unless there's a storyline or two, a touted rookie coming out, a new look offense somewhere, for the most part, there's not much to look at for your state. Like, what did the Titans care about this preseason?
Nothing right, Brian. I'll tell you that much.
Exactly.
Nothing that mattered.
But yeah, I'm with you. How about this? If Summer League doesn't count as preseason, what does that tell you about all the other preseasons if Summer League should be the best preseason sport? Right?
It tells you that they suck.
Drop the mic. I miss basketball Illuminati, by the way. You know what I don't miss? I don't miss them clones doing what they need to do to stay relevant. Nate, give the people what they want to hear. Give us a breakdown of what the Cyclones were able to accomplish a couple days ago.
Let me tell you, the Cyclones are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're out of the basement, no longer last place. We took it to the expansion Fireballs, beating them 6.5 to 1.5 points, getting us to 5th place. We're 2 points up over the Fireballs. We're 9.5 points behind the Robote Renegades, 13 points behind the Dehada Devils, but the Dehada Devils have a 2-game day. We got 2 games in hand against them, so got that going for us. Right now, the number 1 team, the Chargers, who we did play, and they did handle us pretty good. I think they beat us like 6.5 to 1.5. And they're undefeated right now currently with that new owner, Mr. Red, who you hear Mike Ryan talking about. Little disrespect sending his people, not talking to us personally, right? So we play them, and guess what? This is why I love Alai. We got Sunday games now, Brian. You know that? They play on Sundays. Yep. Although this upcoming Sunday will be the last time they play on Sunday for the rest of the season. So you better catch it, people, because they're not doing it anymore after this. But the great thing about that is for football, you'd have to waiting all day for Sunday night. Well, for Alai, you only have to wait part of the day for Sunday afternoon, and then it's there, right? So we play the Chargers, and you know what, Brian? I think we're going to take them down a peg. They're undefeated. It's time that they get that first L of the season. The Pelota's been bouncing their way. I don't think the Pelota's going to bounce their way this upcoming Sunday. I think we're going to beat them, and we're going to beat them handily.
I dare say, most important game of the season. Because if they win this, not only do they stop that charge a bit, but it could be a momentum shifter. And we know what happens when momentum shift when dealing with Cyclones. They get upgraded. We can get a category 2, category 3.
You do not. We've got 1 win. Do not let us get 2. You do not want to see a Cyclone team that's got 2. And from this last win, Brian, I just want to say I was really impressed with our new guy, Lopez. He was coaching everybody up. If you watch that game, Lopez was the calming force in the middle of our storm that players looked to. He was the eye of the storm. And going forward, I mean, Manu, Lopez, if Lopez steps up as a coach like that and can get what he got out of Flores last time, if we can get Flores to pick it up, I mean,
how do you feel about Flores so far this season?
Against the against the Fireballs, he actually had probably his best game day I've ever seen out of him. I think he was the player of the day for that. He played really well. Before that, he had a tough start to the season, not playing well, not catching, and to me, out of position a lot. So I think that's why the coaching is important, because he wasn't out of position as much. So there's a lot of communication that is needed, especially with the added emphasis of more partner games. So if you got a guy who he's not as talented, struggles to catch, and then is also going to be like out of position. So there's a couple times like we were getting killed on a bunch of drop shots when he was playing because he was all over the place and the other team was taking advantage of it. But if he's back and Lopez can coach him up and coach up our team, and he's come in, played really well, adjusted to the court really quick, I think we're going to make the playoffs and make some noise. You hear me, Brian? Make some noise. And if I had to grade, if I had to give grades for Alai owners, I would give Mike Ryan and Chris Cody an A+ and rank them as the number 1 owners. in Alai Battle Court. In Battle Court Alai. That's obvious. Obvious, Bryan.
Propaganda, always. But that's what we're here for. We need someone to be pro. He's our Jeremy Taché when it comes to the pelota.
1, they're champions. 2, longest running ownership, right? The Chargers, are they still owned by Lifestyle Miami or Mr. Red? I don't know what's happening there. Mr. Red doesn't have any championships, but he sure thinks he's going to get one. Let me tell you, Mr. Red is going to find out that it's harder to get that Battle Court championship than you think. If you think the Cyclones are just going to blow over and let you just come in and get this championship your first season, that owners do not get championships in their first season except for UD. Exception to the rule, Mr. Red. You're about to find out that the Cyclones run this Battle Court.
Careful. This team has bitten off more than they could chew and have made enemies of teams that maybe they shouldn't have in the past. Let's not stoke any fires. And we don't want no bulletin board material. With the first month in the books in the highlight season, who is the current MVP of this team?
For me, it's Manu. If you've been watching, like, Manu has, as a singles player, he looks totally different. Manu last season in singles was 1-7. This season, I think
like he lost some weight.
That's what the word on the street is there. He's 2-1. The mobility has increased, but the shot selection and throwing by Manu has been next level. Like, he hasn't needed as much mobility because he's controlling these games so much with where he's putting the ball. He took down Go Cherry, arguably the best player in all of Alai, who was undefeated last season, broke his win streak. He did lose to Zuleika, but again in 3 sets. So he's looked great out there.
You know what I'm seeing from Manu? I'm seeing a confidence out of him that reminds me of when rookies are about 3 to 4 years in the league in any sport, and they realize, oh, they can't fuck with me. I don't got to play with them anymore. I'm going to go for the kill every single chance I get. Why am I making myself work so hard? I'm tired. Yeah, I could run around if I want to. Yeah, I could do all these rebotes if I want to. But you know what I could also do? Put this motherfucking pelota anywhere from here to Jacques Cousteau's house. I don't know where he lives, but I'm assuming it's far. And guess what? Manu could get it there with the accuracy of a hawk.
Absolutely, Bryan. Like, when I see Manu, the animal I think of is Ron McGill's favorite animal, the harpy eagle. Just an assassin. He turns the pelota into a deadly weapon. Like, don't let Manu get that. You better be careful where you put that pelota. You put it in the wrong place, Manu is going to end it.
You mentioned the best owners in the league being Chris Cody and what happened there? Chris Cody and Mike Ryan.
Hands down, Bryan. Not even close.
Now, if we take them out of the fronton and put them back into the studio, there was a changing of the guard. Mike Ryan, he stepped down. Once again, thank you, Mike Ryan, for all you've ever done. You've been a driving force of the show. And to me, you've been the spine of the book that is Dan Le Batard Show. You held it all together in a way that I don't think I've ever seen someone do from that producer seat with a show for so long. With that being said, Chris Cody now has firmly planted himself into that position. Kind of, sort of, maybe. Sometimes when he's not reneging on his responsibilities and going to New York. I digress. Mike Ryan hinted that he's continued to try to give the people on the show an opportunity to step up to that EP spot, which is kind of crazy to me because I look at it from the position of somebody who's always looked for opportunities as, oh, wait, no one is actually fighting me for this. I would have attacked that EP role with the viciousness of how Manu gets after that ball. But I digress. That's me.
That, Bryan.
We're all built different. I think you would have. I think you would have as well. First one in, last one out. You would have been that guy. But we're different, right? With that being said, Mike Ryan said he tried to keep it internal, but now he might have to look external for replacements as his role as EP. I wanted to ask you, before you go though, because I want you taking mine, who is your pick for internal EP and external EP if they went outside? I'm going to go internal, and I don't know if this counts, but I say, no, I'm not going to throw him in there. I'm going to say Billy. I'm going to say Billy, because when he's in that role, he provides enough when there isn't enough going on, but not too much where you can get tired of him being in that role. I'm going Billy. And for my external choice, Anthony Mays.
Good choices, Bryan. For I'm going to go internal. See, look, internal choice, honestly, I kind of like the rotating EPs that they're doing. I don't know if that's a sustainable thing going forward. Just again, as my personality, I like things being new. And I think having that rotating EP, you do feel a difference between when Chris Cody's in that seat and when Billy Gill is in the seat. And honestly, I kind of like the differences that are there, that it does create a different like feeling. So as someone who, one of the things that I really value is like things feeling new, feeling different. Like I kind of like that multiple EP thing, but I do kind of like, let's go give somebody the job and let them run with it. I just want someone to want it. I want someone to want it. It's interesting. Like part of me, I want to talk to somebody on the show about this, about why is there no EP? Is it because nobody wants it, or because a while back, Mike Ryan did share about his experience as taking over as EP and how like Dan didn't trust him at the start. So part of me wonders, like, is it not just that people maybe don't want the EP position, or is it that
everything that comes with it?
They're trying to create a process where Dan feels more comfortable with whoever they pick, right? So letting people try out so Dan builds trust with whoever they end up putting in that seat is something
as opposed to forcing it on him.
As opposed to just picking someone right now and going with it. They might be feeling that process out because of Mike sharing how it was rough for him at the start, Dan not trusting him, that he had to interview people that were possible replacements for himself, and that over time he built that trust. So part of me wonders if it's not even just people not wanting it, or if this process is a result of like Dan needs that trust with whoever is going to be EP. So let's rotate people in, let Dan get a feel for what that's like, and then maybe they'll appoint someone to like take it over. So I don't know.
So you're looking at it as it could currently be a running back by committee situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it from a position of next man up. And you know how those two phrases, while kind of meaning the same thing, are two different phrases, right? Like next man up, you have an opportunity to make an impression that you never would have had the chance to if not for the person ahead of you not being available. So you hit it with the gusto that makes sure you're going to remember me. I'm here to show you that I'm here and I'm not leaving. And then running back by committee is more like, I'm only getting 10 carries. I guess I'll just go out there and run the play. And
so there's part of it is what I said of like, I kind of like the rotating EP, and then, but ultimately I think I do want someone to like be picked and like put into that position. For now, I don't mind it, but I do want to like understand more about like this has been a really long process for the show doing this.
And that's the thing. Like when you're seeing miscues and sounds being brought up, when you see Chris Cody attempt to try to read today, and it just absolutely murdered yesterday, and it absolutely murdered him reading about skateboards and hats and tough acting to acting. Boom. It's just like, okay. And granted, he can't read regardless if he's in that seat or not. So shout out to you, Chris Cody. But like, are they getting better? is I guess what I'm asking. Like, if they all got to a point of they were all like, hey, they're all serviceable EPs. Let's see. Monday we got this. Let's see who ends up coming out of the top. Cool. But it's like, if they're not in a seat long enough to get better at it, or if they're not exhibiting the want to get better at it, then we're just kind of throwing shit at the wall hoping it sticks. And I got too much respect for Meadowlark as a company and Dan as a person and the rest of that team. I know it's a shtick, and I know a lot of it is bits, but I respect them too much to think that they would just let something, such an important role like that, just kind of be tossed around like hot potato. So in a typical Nathan fashion,
well, yeah, so just to push back on that, though, part of me wonders if the rotating EP isn't necessarily because of, like, sure, it could be because of the need to, like, train somebody up and build them into it, but is part of that also just of Dan? It's not because of the people that are stepping into the EP, but because Dan needs that time to build trust with them so that when they do pick whoever they go with, Dan feels more comfortable with that person.
But the crazy part is all of these people have spent more time transitionally in the EP spot than Chris Whittingham ever did. And all these people have known Dan and worked with Dan longer than Chris Whittingham ever did. So I just think that's telling that Chris Whittingham was
the way Dan always talked about Chris Whittingham as like this prodigy, and maybe he did trust Mike. Man up. He did trust Mike. He did have that trust with Mike, and it was like Mike's brought him in. So good point. I mean, I think if I had to pick, it's probably internally Chris Cody's job to lose, because with Billy Gill, him taking the EP job with everything he does to wrangle Stu, and God bless football. I was about to say God bless Alai. With God bless football, like
Chris Cody's J.K. Dobbins.
Chris Cody's the guy who it's his.
Say he's J.K. Dobbins.
What does that mean? That Chris? I don't want your Achilles to get blown out. Stretch those fingers. I don't want you to tear a pinky.
He's J.K. Dobbins.
Pressing the buttons.
Is Tony? I know Tony has sat there, but like, is he like legit in one of the spots?
Has Tony ever sat? I think it's just in terms of an internal EP. I think it's between Billy and Chris Cody if they're going to hire internally. And my external person who I would say for the show, that if I had to pick Bryan, I'd say take a look at the Fan Le Batard show and look at me producing right here, walking on this pad here, if you can kind of see it right there. Still doing a podcast, putting a baby to sleep, and getting exercise. Like, if I can do that, I bet I could executive produce the Dan Le Batard show. So maybe consider Nasty Nate as the external hire.
And you come with your own sidekick. Exactly,
right? What do you think, baby Kobe?
Wait, I was talking about me.
Oh.
So, you know.
Of course.
But anyway, folks. Shit. See what happens? Damn, Chris Cody, I'm sorry.
I totally failed there.
My bad, J.K. Dobbins. All right, take it away, Nate.
Well, folks, that's going to do it. Thanks for listening. Congratulations to Matt Heasley, I think, from Australia. He won the football there, Bryan. Now I got to find a way to mail a football to Australia. See how much that costs. Oh, it's going to be an arm and a leg, mate.
That's a good accent.
Yeah, thanks.
You call that an accent?
I call that a knife. That's not a knife. But, yeah, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, all that jazz. Rate, review, 5 stars, Spotify. And go Clones this Sunday. If you're in Miami, get out there and make it to the final
Go
Sunday
Clones.
afternoon.